Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's warm up here. I don't know how it is out there. Is it all right for everyone? We'll have to bear with it. First of all, as Louis had mentioned, this is our first year here at the Thumb Octagon Barn. We sort of wanted to do what we could to promote this facility, and I'm going to throw a plug in there for this facility. Anyone who's looking to volunteer some of their time to this facility, they're always looking for volunteers. So if anyone is interested, talk to the staff in the back, and we'll get your names and pass it on to the appropriate people that are in charge of the Octagon Barn. Also, while you're here today, provide some feedback to us, positive or negative, so we can take that feedback and use it to make next year even better. First, I'd like to just touch on a few highlights, and then open the meeting up to what I feel is the most important part of the meeting, and that is to open the floor up to you, the members, and hear what might be on your mind, or maybe you want some further elaboration on some certain subject matters. So let me just get into just a few things. So from a safety perspective, 2016 was a very good year. There are always those minor incidents like twisted ankles, strained shoulders, or twisted backs. But I'm proud to say that our last lost time incident occurred in the fall of September 2015. So that's a good goal, and we're not satisfied with that goal. Next year we want to be talking about, again, that 2015 date. As you're aware, line crew work is potentially dangerous. The guys work daily in this environment, and when the crews are out restoring power after a major weather event, the danger increases substantially. And Louis touched on it briefly, but we already have experienced two such events this year. In March, we had a wind event that caused us some damage and extended outages. And then in April, we had a heavy, wet snow, ice, and wind event, which it took us 5 days to get people back into power, and we brought in additional crews from within the state. So you probably have seen, during those two events, you probably saw some of our line crews or some of the assisting line crews working in those conditions day in and day out to safely restore the power. So this time I'd ask you to join me in a round of applause for our 30 employees who get the job done every day safely. Louis mentioned last year we did have a rate increase, and that rate increase, which went into effect in November of last year and was approved by the Michigan Public Service Commission, amounted to about a $6 increase to the average residential account. The rate increase that was approved by the Commission last year will be the last rate case that we file with them. Because of last November, your co-op, Thumb Electric, became a member-regulated co-op. Last year at this time, we talked about the benefits of being member-regulated. But basically, going forward, any rate revision will be decided locally by the Board of Directors with input from you, the members, at open board meetings, as opposed to someone in Lansing. So if you want to voice your concern with a rate revision in the future, attend one of our special open meetings. That will be announced in the Country Lines magazine. And you just come to Ubley and attend the meeting, as opposed to the way you have to do it now is drive to Lansing and talk to an administrative judge that they don't know you, nor you don't know them. So hopefully you know your elected board here, and so really brings back the control back locally, and decisions to be made locally by the board. While we're on rates, we are also having a cost of service study performed this year. In a cost of service study, we hire someone to take a look at every rate to make sure that every ratepayer and every rate account is paying their fair share. What we don't want is one account to subsidize another account. We want everyone to pay their fair share. So we're having that done this year, and any future rate revisions that need to be made, we'll be using that as a guideline to make any changes. We continue our aggressive right-of-way program, working on scheduled circuit work and other identified problem areas on our system. Dead ash trees continue to be a problem and most likely will be for a couple more years. I know some of you last year experienced way too many outages, and the majority of those were due to some ash trees. And we have crews in that area, and we're making very good progress. I'd also like to thank the members and property owners for working with us to remove those trees and to really expand the right-of-way so we can keep our line workers safe, the general public safe, and to ensure that we can continue to provide you with a reliable source of energy. We continue to make capital investments to rebuild and upgrade aged and underperforming circuits. Contractors actually just started this past week on a 15-mile transmission and distribution rebuild project up in Huron County, starting at our Kindy substation, and that will extend to our Ubley substation. The original line that's been in place since the 50s was built in the deep right-of-way in the middle of fields. So we're bringing the new line just off the road right-of-way. That'll remove that obstruction for the growers and farmers that are working those fields, and it'll allow us to better maintain the lines from the road as opposed to going into the fields. Again, I'd like to thank the members and property owners working with us because we do have to establish a new right-of-way, and without your assistance, these projects would not be successful. So thank you there. We continue to participate in the youth tour program, and maybe we don't publicize this enough, but every year our statewide organization, MECA, and we do have a representative here that you'll be hearing from, but our statewide sends individuals from all the 9 co-ops in Michigan to Washington, D.C. for about a week. And Thumb Electric is sponsoring one individual. In fact, they are arriving. They're en route there today. But we participate in this because we are hopefully preparing this individual for the future, to be a future leader, and we want to do our part to ensure that we're making the future better by providing some individuals some opportunities. We continue to offer a full slate of programs for you, the member, to save energy and reduce your bill every month. Just to name a few of them, energy efficiency programs, home energy audits, energy efficient rebates and loans. We have controlled water heater and heating cooling programs. We have an LED security light. We also offer private tree trimming from our 2 contractors that are on our property, Cap and Tree Services and ProLine Services. We have surge protection equipment, and we've been in the propane business since 1997. So if you're interested in any of these programs, or if you're not participating in any of these programs, please talk to the staff at the registration tables. If you're not participating, you're losing an opportunity to reduce your bill. We continue to work with our statewide organization and national organizations and elected officials, and we have a few of them here you'll be hearing from later, to make sure that the interests of the co-op, the members of the co-op, are heard in Lansing and Washington. Along that same line, we continue to promote and encourage members such as yourselves to participate directly into ACRE. And ACRE is the Political Action Committee for all the electric cooperatives in the state or in the nation, 800 plus co-ops. So if you're interested in participating directly, I believe we have information at the registration table. We encourage you to participate. We continue to meet the state RPS, or Renewable Portfolio Standard law. Back in 2008, the energy law that was passed required every utility in the state of Michigan to get 10% of their energy needs from renewables. We have been doing that successfully, and we comply by buying renewable energy credits from our wholesale power supplier. Going forward, that 10% will be increased to 15% by 2021. That was one of the new laws that was signed into, one of the bills that was signed into law last December in Lansing by the governor. I know the House and the Senate worked a long time to take the 2008 energy law and tweak it to make it better. And one of the things is the RPS will go up to 15%. So currently we're planning on, again, continuing to get the renewable energy credits from our wholesale supplier. But we are also looking at solar. And I'm going to have a question for you here in a little bit. Well, I guess I'm at that point right now. So we've been looking at solar right now. Again, everything we do, we look at your money that we're spending, and if it makes sense to do it, we do it. If it doesn't make sense, we don't do it. And right now, solar is still more expensive, but price is coming down and the efficiency is coming up. So there will be a point in time where we step in with some type of solar. There's actually three types of solar that we could get into. One, utility-grade solar project where we, the co-op, builds it, finances it, owns it, maintains it, and it is included in our power portfolio. Second one is a community solar project. Community solar is similar to the utility project where the co-op finances it, the co-op builds it, maintains it, and owns it, and you, the member, if you wanted to buy a piece of that, you could buy into a piece of that. Say you wanted to buy one panel. And we don't have the dollar amounts figured, but let's throw up $500. For $500, you would buy into one panel of this large solar array. And what you get for it is the output of that energy that's produced. You get credited for that on your account. Community solar has been very popular with other utilities for a couple of reasons. One, members such as yourself may not be in position to make the large investment that's required to put a solar on your pole barn or in your front yard. Or two, you may not have a pole barn or a facility or a yard large enough to put a solar array in. So that's another option that seems to be very popular. And the third one is finally, and you see a lot of these throughout the thumb, especially in Huron County, solar panels, solar arrays that you, the individual, own and maintain and purchase and finance. We could come up with some rate to where it would provide you an incentive for you to make this investment, and you maintain it and you own it and you pay the taxes on it. But we would then be buying power from you, our member. And if I had, and the board I think is on the same page here, if we had our preference, instead of buying all of our power needs from a wholesale power supplier, we'd much rather buy our power directly from our members. So those are the three options. So I guess I'm going to, anybody want to provide any input? Would there be any interest in any three of those? Any interest in a community solar program? Okay. Any interest in a solar program where you own it and maintain it and we buy the power back from you? Okay. Any interest in just taking a hands-off approach and saying, you're my co-op, you take care of it, you build a utility-grade solar array, and just blend it in with the rest of the power? Not so much there. Interesting. No, that's good. But stay tuned. We'll be providing you more information as we look more seriously into it. At this time, I'd like to open the floor up to any questions or comments that you may have. And it's usually after the first question, questions usually start rolling. So we do have some mics, staff members here with mics. If anyone has a question or a comment, raise their hand. There's a gentleman there.
Yeah, you talk about you purchase your renewable energy credits from your supplier. there's approximately, I was told, about 18 solar systems in your group owned by individuals. What would it take to have you look into buying those energy credits from the members?
Great question. So we have roughly about 20 members that have invested in their own solar array and interconnected to our system. The energy law that was passed in 2008 allows individuals and end users to do that as far as what size you can put in. And they do produce RECs. The problem with the smaller systems, there's such a small amount of RECs that are produced. And then the real problem is keeping track. So for every REC, and a REC is a renewable energy credit. For 1,000 kilowatt hours, 1,000 kilowatt hours that's produced, that's a REC. And there's a value to that REC. There's supposed to be a value to that REC. But every REC has to be certified. And there's a whole process, and there's a REC certification business that you have to certify with each REC, and then you basically have this pool of RECs, and then when you use them, like the co-op would take credit for them, they have to be retired, and there's a process to retire it. Bottom line is, it costs money, and for a small solar array, the cost would exceed what you would get, or even the value the co-op would get from that REC. That being said, we could maybe, things could change in the future. I guess one other thing I want to point out regarding the solar, the net metering is what we're talking about with these solar arrays. Currently, the rate, the tariff that those 20 members are on, they produce power that's supposed to offset their consumption at their facility. Anything extra gets pushed back to us, and we're required to buy that by law. And we're required to buy it at full retail. So if you're paying 12 cents or 13 cents, we have to pay that to you. We buy our power from a wholesale power supplier for about 6 cents. So we're actually paying a premium. So there is some subsidization going on by those members that are not participating. You're actually paying more for your power from these 20 members. So we really haven't publicized or promoted that because it's not fair for the membership as a whole. Going forward, we're looking at those rates to adjust them to where it makes sense for us to promote and maybe offer some financing for you to put your own solar array in, and for us to buy that at a competitive price.
You mentioned about the bookwork and everything. You guys have the records on how much energy we are producing. So the records are there. It isn't like it's going to take, they come out and they check it every year. They compile how much energy that these solar systems make. A simple calculator puts it into how many certificates you get. So that really doesn't make any sense. There's 20 of us, you said. I'm sure one person, 1 or 2 days, it would be done on a yearly basis. Detroit Edison, they pay their members 20 years in advance, not looking for that. On a yearly basis, there should be value there. You're already buying them from somebody else, and ours are sitting there not being used. You have the figures.
Agree. We recognize that we do have the figures, but the price of a REC is about 50 cents a REC. Now, you talk to somebody selling solar, they're probably going to offer you a lot more. Well, they're able to do that, just like someone selling a vehicle. You can adjust some numbers. If you pay higher RECs, you can sell that solar array for a higher price. Bottom line is, we looked at it, and for a 50-cent REC to actually follow all that paperwork and pay fees, because for every location we have to pay a fee for a REC generating source. So there's fees that have to be paid. So at this point in time, again, we're not doing it because it doesn't make sense. I do recognize, and we do recognize that there is this REC that's supposed to have some value. Going back to 2007 when the 2008 energy law was passed, RECs were a new word, and they projected RECs to be $20 a REC. Well, when the energy law was passed and utilities had to start securing RECs, we bought RECs for 40 cents and 50 cents a REC. And at that time, we were using the $20 REC price to determine whether it would make sense for us to build a wind park or put in a larger solar array. But even at $20, it didn't make sense for us. The REC market did not develop like they predicted. But I do recognize that, and we will continue to look at that to see if we can come up with some type of solution.
When you talk about cost, you're already buying it. You're already buying it. But you're not buying from the members. You're buying from somebody else.
Yeah,
you're
so
not asking for a premium. Cost out of it that it costs to do your paperwork. And buy your recs, some of them, from your members.
yeah, so maybe let me elaborate or further expand on that. So we're buying power or our RECs from our supplier. They have facilities that are producing the energy. They have the cost to track all of that on their end. So even though we have a cost to use those and retire them, if we were going to pull in the generation side, and if we had a big solar array, maybe it would make sense. But so for those, we're not absorbing that cost that our power supplier is right now on our behalf. They are. If we let that go, we would have additional costs. So again, I understand, we understand.
You've got your cost and pay us for your recs. I'm not saying it costs the members extra money.
It will.
I'm saying there's cost to it. Fine. You've got your cost and pay us what they're worth to the co-op.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at that when we're looking at the rate as far as modifying it so we can then promote. And the RECs will probably be part of it. But right now, for us to promote the net metering, it's costing the members that are not participating. And we need to make sure that everyone's paying their fair share and there's no subsidization. But I do appreciate your questions, and I'm not trying to sidestep them. I'm trying to be honest and share with you what we deal with. Thank you for your question.
How does what he's talking about differ from what you're talking about with this community purchasing and individual purchasing? It sounds like we'd be in the same boat if we went to an individual purchase of solar generation or community solar generation. We'd be in the same boat as him. You don't want to buy it from us because it's not cost effective.
Well, the difference is one small system versus a large system. So every generator, if every one of you in this room had a generator that was a solar array, we would have to pay a certain fee for every one of you. Whereas if we have one large one, we would pay just one fee. So it comes down to the numbers and collectively doing things together.
I'm changing the subject. When poles snap off and they're replaced and they're left in the ditch or wherever, who has the right to those?
Okay, great question. So when we replace a pole, we usually give the property owner first dibs on them. And if we make arrangements to have the property owner take them, we will leave them there. But we don't want to leave them. We don't want them left there for a long duration of time because of safety hazards. So if you don't scoop them up quickly, we'll come out and take them. But we give property owners the first dibs on them. And if they don't want them, maybe their neighbor does. If we have to load them up and bring them back to the warehouse, it does add costs. So we try to avoid that. That being said, the poles that do come back to the warehouse, we do sell them for a nominal fee if anyone has interest in that. But property owners get first dibs on them.
Any way of keeping track of the age of the poles a little better? I know the ones that snapped off in our neighborhood and caused major power outages. The poles look pretty dozy. Like they should have been replaced years ago.
Yeah, great question. Great question. So every year we test. We bring in a pole testing company and test about like 12% of our poles on our system. And we do it on a rotation. Our transmission poles we test every 3 years. Our distribution poles we test every 8 years. So what they do, they actually do an ultrasounding test. And if it doesn't sound right, they actually do a drill. They actually drill in and pull back a sample of that wood to see what the condition is. You're right, we do have a lot of old poles, a lot of original 1937 poles still out there. And we are replacing them as we need to, whether we're rebuilding a circuit for upgrades or they've been tested and have been deemed that they need to be replaced due to them starting to decay. And every one of those poles does have a date stamped into them. So you'll actually see some stamped with 1937 that are poles that are still out there, the original poles. Any other questions? Yes.
I live on the Kluger Road, Harbor Beach area, just a quarter of a mile from the top of the road. We had a lot of poles broke in our area with that windstorm. We were on electricity for about 3 days. And they changed some poles and they put some back that I think really needs to be. Right on the corner there, the wires, of course, go east and west from there and come up our place. They don't go any further past our house. But the pole is just like it's leaning terribly on the corner, and it's got wires going in 4 directions. I just wanted to let you know what.
I appreciate that, Doug. Can you make sure you get the information from him? And let me just share a little bit about the April windstorm. Well, first in March, we had a wind event which hit the whole state, also hit other states. And it took us 2 days to get everyone back on. And we had one contractor that was assisting us. Everything else was done by our crews. Because we couldn't find additional help, because it was such a widespread event. Detroit Edison had 800,000 people. Well, yeah, it had a lot of people up. So that was March. And then in April, we got hit with Thursday high winds. And we were holding our own Thursday night. And then it started to snow, and that snow turned to heavy, wet snow. And then some areas that snow turned to ice. On top of that, the wind was still there. And that event ended up, it took us 5 days to restore power. And in that event, we actually brought in 12 other utilities, 70 additional linemen. We had 80 broken poles, so not just in your area, throughout our whole system, miles and miles of line down. So again, Mother Nature does come through. We do have a program in place to test poles. We will replace them as they are deemed needed. It would be great to just go ahead and rebuild the 2,000 miles of line, but you wouldn't be happy with the rates that we'd have to pay. So, we try to do things as we have to, so it doesn't negatively impact you on your monthly bills. Any other questions? One in the back there.
I live in the Carroll area, and I just want to thank you because we have not had any extended outages for the last couple of years. And that's certainly a lot different than it was 20 years ago, when every time the wind blew, it seemed like we didn't have light. So thanks a lot. You're doing a great job.
I appreciate that comment. We do spend a lot of money every year. We do spend a lot of money. The board authorizes us spending a lot of money on tree trimming and right-of-way maintenance. And we're not where we need to be, but we're making progress. And we are seeing the results when we do have these wind events. The circuits that we have completed, the outage duration and outage numbers are down substantially.
Thank you. I'll just, three things quickly. I'll add to what she said. When we joined the co-op 11 years ago, we were skeptical about what the power outage situations were going to be like. Our guys do a super job up here. It's 10 times better than DTE or consumers. So kudos to the guys out there in the trenches. And number two, last year I mentioned that at the meeting that there was a pole that had been sitting on our property for a long time. And the guys came out and got it right away after the meeting last year. So again, kudos to them for that. The third thing I'd like to add is, can you elaborate a little bit on the community solar thing? Is that something in the near future, or is that a ways out? And you said something about each member maybe buying a solar panel or an array for $500 and then be credited on their bill. Can you give some typical numbers, or not exact numbers, but just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for your comments again, but great question. So the community solar, again, is a project where, again, we would build it, own it, finance it, and if you wanted to participate, again, the $500 is just something I threw out there, but it would be similar to that, where basically you would be paying a piece of what it costs to co-op, and for that, whatever that panel, or 2 panels, or 3, whatever you bought, it would be metered separately, and then that would be passed on to you as a credit on your electric bill. And then also we could also possibly work in purchasing the RECs and keeping track of all those RECs, and that could be part of the program. We're not, we're still talking about it. I don't know, nothing will happen this year, but 2018 is right around the corner.
I'm all for renewable energy. Has a study actually been done on the solars? Because, of course, we know what our winter's like, and there's never any sun in the wintertime. Will it aid itself through the course of the summertime to go this route?
Yeah. So, usually everyone's looking for a payback on their investment, and usually solar is no different. Obviously, if you get a utility like Detroit Edison to pay a large share of it, like they did on some of their early programs, or if you're able to get a type of USDA grant, that makes that cost a lot lower. So again, the numbers, the cost has been coming down, and the efficiency has gone up. You wouldn't think that Michigan would be a good state, but actually they claim that Michigan and the angle of the sun makes Michigan a good state. And in fact, the winter months are better than the summer, because in the summer, on a day like today, the ambient temperature is a lot warmer, and you lose, there's a lot more losses. So energy that's produced, you lose to heat. So actually, a cold, sunny winter day, that is the best time to produce solar energy. Any other questions? I'll take a few more. So, one in the back here.
Are we getting any advantage from all these wind farms that's going up around Fair Grove and Akron and Pigeon and anything? Are you buying power from them at all?
Yes. No, we are not buying any energy from any of those wind parks in the Thumb area. Chances are the energy that you're using in your homes and businesses are coming from that, because when an electron is produced, it goes to where it's needed, the least path of resistance. It doesn't travel across the state to a utility that may be buying that energy on paper. But no, we're not actually buying any of the wind that's energy that's being produced by the wind up in this area.
Where's that power going? Canada or the state or what?
The power goes on the grid. And once it's on the grid, it goes where it's needed. And once it's on the grid, you cannot distinguish between an electron that was produced at a wind facility or one that's produced in a natural gas facility. It goes on the grid where it's needed. With those electrons, it's tracked, it's metered. So, what's being produced, if a utility like DTE is using that in their portfolio, they know on paper how much energy is produced, and how much energy they then have to sell to their customers. Again, it's law of physics comes into play. Those electrons go where they're needed. But someone has to pay for that, and it's those entities that have a contract with the developers that are actually paying for it. Okay, any other questions? One more here.
Lost power about 12:30 yesterday afternoon. Any ideas that there's no poles in that area? It's all underground cables.
Yeah, he lost power yesterday afternoon. I'm not aware of what the problem was, but on a beautiful sunny day and when there's no wind, chances are it's probably a squirrel or a raccoon, but I'm just guessing. But I could actually get the information before you leave today. Pardon?
How many had sitting out in that same time?
I don't know. Yesterday? Did anyone else have an outage yesterday? Oh, a few people. Let me see if I can find out what the problem was. Okay, any other questions? If not, one more, and this is the final one. Oh, two more, and we'll...
Yes, I want to thank Happens Tree Service, who has spent enormous amount of time on the Melvin Hoppy property for 2 weeks for trimming the trees, and it went over and above all means of tree trimming that hasn't been done on our property for many, many years. Thanks again for the Happens Tree Service.
Do you live down by Austin Township by chance? Is that where you live? Yeah, and that was, last year, Circuit 3 out of Austin was our worst performing circuit, and, we have tree problems and ash tree problems all over the place, but that is a bad area. And you're right, we haven't been down there for years, and we have other circuits that we have to get to, too. But I do appreciate your comments. Captains and Proline do a great job for us. One more question, and then I'm going to keep this program going.
First of all, I live in Port Hope, and like my neighbors who have Detroit Edison, they have outages many, many more times. I can only remember 3 times in the last 2 years, and it was short outages. Now I don't know anything about this, but it was about 13 years ago that there was a grid in the Ohio area that went out, and we were without, there was a whole section where there was outages. And with the sign of the times, what type of safeguards do you have, firewalls or whatever, for protection of the co-op tie-in to a grid when it comes to what's predicted as terrorist computer glitches?
Great question, and security and cybersecurity is a big issue, front burner issue. So we buy all of our power. We have 7 interconnected points to DTE's 40 kV system. If by chance we happen to be isolated from the grid, we have 2 power plants, one in Carroll and one in Public, that we could fire up and produce our own power like we did back when the co-op started. So we do have that ability. The last time we had to exercise those units for grid stability was back in 2003, when, if you recall, the northeastern blackout occurred. Many states were without power. We did not lose power. Our voltage dipped down low, and we fired up both power plants, and we were able to maintain our voltage levels to where we didn't have any issues. So, our power plants, as old as they are, we still exercise them once a year. They are valuable to us, valuable to you, in case something like that was to happen. As far as security on our computers or electronics, we don't really, none of our tie points are tied in to the computers, so that cyber security concern and our interconnect points are really not a concern for us. But great question. All right, I appreciate everyone's questions and concerns. I'll be around if you want to chat longer later today, but I do appreciate your interest in your co-op. Thank you.